think the 9070 XT shocked everyone in my last test when it outperformed the more powerful 7900 XTX in 1440 online raids and streets, making it the highest FPS GPU I've tested so far in 2K resolution. That result was unexpected, and it got me thinking, if the 9070 XT could beat AMD's flagship, how does it stack up against the 4090? I don't have a 5090 yet because I refuse to pay scalper prices, but that's another story. Today I'll be putting them head to head to see which one comes out on top. Let's get into it. For this test, I ran both GPUs on my 9800X3D with a -40 undervolt and +200 boost clock override, paired with 64GB of DDR5 6000CL30 RAM with tuned secondary and tertiary timings, all running on an X670E Aorus Extreme motherboard. Full configuration details are listed in the video description below. For settings, I used my Pure 80 preset, which is my optimized high texture setup. This preset delivers the best balance of visuals and performance. If you want a full breakdown of the settings, I'll link that in the upper right hand corner. To keep things consistent, I ran 3 online raids per GPU at 1080, 1440, and 4K on customs and streets, following my usual test routes. Afterward, I took the average numbers from those runs for comparison. Alright, let's get into the numbers, starting with Streets, which is the most CPU dependent map in Tarkov. In 1080, the 4090 lagged behind the 9070 XT by about 2 to 7% in average FPS, 1% and 0.1% lows. When we bumped up the resolution to 1440, the numbers became nearly identical with only a few FPS separating the two. It's well within the margin of error. Interestingly though, the 4090 still had slightly lower numbers than the 9070 XT. Then in 4K, I saw some pretty unexpected results. The 4090 had a 5.6% advantage in average FPS, which I did expect, but it fell behind in 1% lows and 0.1% lows by about 5 and 2% respectively. What's even more surprising is that the 9070 XT saw an increase in performance compared to my last test in patch 16.1.3, thanks to the performance optimizations in patch 16.2. This was definitely the craziest result of the test, seeing these numbers on the 9070 XT in 4K native. Moving on to customs, in 1080 the 4090 held a negligible advantage in average FPS and 1% lows, only about 0.5%. However, it had 4% lower 0.1% lows. These numbers are still basically within the margin of error. When we bumped up to 1440, the results were again almost identical, but this time the 4090 had slightly lower average FPS and 1% lows, while it did have a 5% higher 0.1% low average. I ran 3 tests for each, but I think this is just the nature of Tarkov and its RNG. Overall, both GPUs performed equally in terms of game feel with no noticeable difference. Then at 4K, I finally saw what I expected. The 4090 pulled ahead by a huge margin. Since the 16.2 optimization patch, Customs seems to run much better and is now less CPU bound compared to when it was first reworked. The 4090 had a 63% higher average FPS, a 46% increase in 1% lows, and a 33% boost in 0.1% lows. Interestingly, the 9070 XT actually had better performance on streets in 4K than it did on customs, which is a bit puzzling. Not sure I fully understand those results, but I did run 3 tests for each resolution and those are the numbers I got. If anyone has a solid explanation for this, feel free to share it in the comments. So after all the testing, where do we stand? It's clear that the 4090 is the more powerful GPU overall, but Tarkov is a heavily CPU dependent title. With GPUs as powerful as these, you'll hit certain plateaus at 1080 and 1440. The 9070 XT goes punch for punch with the 4090 in those resolutions, and it only starts to fall behind when you hit 4K. Even then, it's still holding its own. And let's not forget, if we enabled FSR, it would probably level the playing field with only a slight visual compromise. And on top of that, if FSR 4 gets added, the gap could close even further. So if you're building a rig purely for Tarkov and mostly play at 1080 or 1440, the 9070 XT is clearly the winner here, especially when it costs about 1/3 the price of a 4090. You're getting top tier performance without breaking the bank. Now, the only situations where I'd recommend the 4090 are for those who spend a lot of time in GPU intensive or Nvidia specific titles, particularly if you care about ray tracing effects. Also, if you're the type who doesn't mind spending extra for premium hardware, the 4090 could be your choice. Even for those who are planning to play in 4K, the 4090 lost a lot of ground recently because DLSS 4 is so good. It's actually the best looking rendering option right now, even over native with TAA. This makes a high-powered 1440 card capable of getting high frames even in 4K, all while looking arguably better than native 4K. Ultimately, right now, the 4090 and 5090 are more of a because I can purchase for Tarkov players rather than a because I need to purchase. What do you guys think? Would you choose the 9070 XT for Tarkov Tarkov or go all in on an Nvidia 90 series? Let me know in the comments below. Alright, that's all I've got for this one. I hope it was helpful. If you got something out of this video, don't forget to drop a like and subscribe for more hardware testing content. It really helps the channel grow. If there are any hardware comparisons you'd like to see, leave a comment below. If one keeps popping up, I'll definitely take note and try to get it out there for you. And of course, if you have any questions, drop them below or join the pyurologie Discord. We're almost at 1,400 members now. Tons of active, knowledgeable, and friendly members in there. I have a channel called Ask Puri where you can ask me questions directly and only I'll answer in there, or you can also shoot me a direct message. I do answer everything I get. Lastly, if you're looking for one-on-one consultation, troubleshooting, or optimization, I offer that as a perk for pyurologie Titanium members on the channel. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.